Hey there, folks. Just want to take a break here from all the horrors and monsters of terror time to remind you, dear listeners, that family matters. Family is the most important thing. We here at evacstation think of each other as family. And we want to keep this family together as much as possible. Head over to patreon.com/evacstation to donate a little something to keep us from breaking apart at the seams when one of us suddenly decides to go nuts and murder a lot of us. No, not me. The other guy. For less than the cost of expensive weekly therapy sessions, you can help keep us off the streets and safely behind these microphones. As a family. Again, that's patreon.com/evacstation. And on with the show.
You hear the beating of your heart, you know the screaming's gonna start. Here comes the really scary part, 'cause it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again. Oh, you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
The clock has struck midnight, and you know what that means. It's terror time again. And we'll be running this podcast all through the night from a terrifying sight. We are Ryan Metters.
Hello.
And I am Aaron J. Waseska. I'm looking forward to having funny names again here soon when the new year comes around. We're getting close to wrapping up 2018's recordings. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I can't wait to, remember what joy feels like, because I certainly didn't feel it in this fucking movie.
Oh man, well the good news, man, is next week, while everyone else is listening to Halloween, we're actually going to be recording what is it? Two Christmas movies to get set for the December rush. I know.
I can laugh and be joyous.
For those listening, that means we're watching Christmas movies in October. We are fucked up. I know this.
Timey-wimey Chicago. It's just recording things.
It happens. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to getting some other segments back in, like the What You Watch and all that stuff. But these one-off, little funsies we do for holidays, it's good. I think it's good to branch out a bit, try new things. So instead of What You Watching this week, as we've been doing with all of our horror movies, we're going to actually discuss, Ryan, what is the scariest thing a family member has done to you or has just done around you?
The scariest thing a family member has done around
or to you, whichever floats your boat. I mean, we're not going to try to get into the deep-seated problems that Uncle Lester, might have done, but...
Oh, Lord.
I don't mean to make light of that. I actually do know people who are in those kind of situations, who have been in those situations growing up, and I'll admit, no laughing matter, but just wanted to break the ice a little bit here.
Well,
fuck.
There was a time where a cousin of mine tried to set me on fire.
Oh boy, I think you've got me beat once again.
He wasn't really serious about it. He was just being an asshole and playing around with one of those long lighters that you use to light a grill. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And a bit of he was fucking around with it and trying to scare me, and he accidentally set a bit of my shirt on fire. And after I hurriedly put that out, I proceeded immediately to beat the shit out of him. It was the first time I had ever actually beat the shit out of somebody, but I did it because you're not going to set me on fire in my own goddamn house. And then my mom beat the shit out of him.
I mean...
And then his mom beat the shit out of him.
I mean, that's fair.
And then his uncle beat the shit out of him. So he got that ass whooping 5 times over, but... Yeah,
sounds like he deserved it quite a bit, though.
He really did, He was a bit of an asshole.
I'm trying to think of a specific situation. The only one that comes to mind for me... So, I was maybe, 6 or 7. I was a wee kid when this happened. I don't even think my brother was born, so I might have even been, 4. But I want to say I was a little older. So I was with my family out in the Quad City area. For those who don't know, that's between Des Moines, or it's between Iowa and Illinois, like right on the Mississippi River. And stayed with my cousins. They were both, I believe they were both teenagers at the time, maybe preteens, but definitely one of the older of the two was a teenager, the older sister, I should say. And they were watching me. My mom and dad were out doing stuff with other members of the family. And my older cousin, Tara, who I'll throw her name in there because I'm sure she'll never hear this. She's not on the internet much as far as I know, but we'll see. I might get called out here next family reunion. Anyway, so she thought it was a fun idea to try to pull some spooky little prank on me. Now, I don't remember how it was set up because obviously I was the prankee, not the pranker. But I was hanging out with my other cousin, who I won't name her. I'll let her know she's innocent. No name dropping here. And of course, I guess there's no really hiding who she is if they're sisters. Whatever. The point is, I was hanging out with her. we were doing stuff, and all of a sudden we heard like noises upstairs, and I was like, "What the hell's that all about?" And so we both go upstairs, and we're looking around for what was going on. And my cousin Tara, all get up in a ghost costume, with the classic sheet over the whole body thing, comes out of like nowhere and just spooks the shit out of me as a kid. And I'm freaking out because I had no never had this happen before. I definitely think I was maybe 4 or 5 at this time. My brother was not old enough to do these kind of pranks with me either, so no bar set for this as to expect this to happen. As I was freaking out, I remember the younger sister was chewing out the older sister, was chewing out Tara for doing it, and it was just kind of funny in hindsight looking back on it. Just, man, it's so tame and simple, but as a little kid that freaks you out,
Oh yeah, no, I got you. And you know what? In hindsight, I'm actually remembering something that was more scary than rather than mean-spirited than potentially being set on fire. When I was about the same age, my older cousins, who were 12 years older than me, at the time I was pretty afraid of dogs because I was allergic to them, and they just genuinely didn't really like me when I was around them. And they had a husky. Uh-huh. So long story short, they both grabbed me when I was young and tried to beat me to their dog, and it was really scary.
That sounds fucking horrible.
It was horrible, man. I mean, the dog was in no way, shape, or form threatening, but it's just my mind was racked with terror, and I was not amused.
Yeah, I hear that. So yeah, I guess we should talk about today's movie, which is all about family doing spooky shit.
Must we?
Yeah, I think we do. We owe it to the people, Ryan, who want to know about Hereditary.
Well, you know what? I done watched this goddamn movie, so I figure we might as well talk about it.
Your eyes don't deceive you. The clock still says it's terror time, and we have yet another frightening film for you tonight. It is 2018's Hereditary. Yeah, we have a handful of recent releases for you this season. It's going to be great. Directed by Ari Aster, this film went on to make $79,275,000 worldwide, which is about 8 times what it cost. Not the record breaker we've had before in this season, but not bad.
Still pretty good, yeah. It's a hell of a return on investment.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, horror films are the best way to get a return on investment. If you go in cheap and make something that's at least fun, you're guaranteed to get some good money back on that. This film stars Alex Wolff, Gabriel Byrne, I think it's Byrne, Toni Collette.
It's Byrne.
Okay. Toni Collette, Millie Shapiro, and Mallory Bechtel. The film received a few nominations, but has only won one for Best Actress from the International Online Cinema Awards. And honestly, Toni Collette, she deserved that award. She did a fucking great job.
She was going in on this role.
She committed hard.
Yeah.
So as a bonus fact for you, Ryan, in Peter's first scene at school, the words "escaping fate" is on the chalkboard with the teacher discussing it. This is a reference to Halloween, 1978, where the main character discusses the same thing. Appropriately, this film was released on the same day as the trailer for Halloween 2018. Wonder if we'll talk about that one anytime soon. I don't know.
Nah.
Tune in next week to find out. So Ryan, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
God damn it. So I'm torn because I think as a horror film, this movie does a lot of amazing things.
It does.
I think it has an amazing grasp on building suspense. I think it really uses quiet, unsettling things to just ratchet up the tension, and it holds back on jump scares, at least till the very end, which I think is really, really cool, getting that much scary nonsense out of simple, tension building things. That being said, I fucking hated this movie because it was too spooky for me. I was losing my mind, and I wasn't enjoying watching it. So I'm torn. That's my initial thought.
So for those listening, I was with Amanda last night, and we were watching. I was writing some stuff, getting my schedule set up for 2019. She was working on some other stuff, and I think I was also in between other things. And I get texts from Ryan over the course of maybe 2 hours, just at various points of the film, asking me what the fuck's happening? What is this? Her head's off. Her head just got taken off. Also, some other crazy shit. I just laughing my ass off. I shared it with Amanda too, and she was just laughing too because she watched it with me, and we both had a good time with that. It was great.
Yeah, I essentially live tweeted this to Aaron because I was not amused, and I needed somebody to be with me. I'm in a solo fucking apartment. Why would you have me watch this?
Not gonna lie, Ryan.
I had to sleep with the lights on, motherfucker.
Not gonna lie, Ryan. After I read those to Amanda, she kind of made the suggestion we need to watch a movie with you in person live at some point.
Oh my god! Oh man! Oh.
I told her next year he'll be in town for the wedding. There's a good chance we can make that happen.
Oh. I would recommend that it's something that you guys have seen that I haven't, because I react kind of big, and I might distract you, and I'm sorry.
I will find something. Don't you worry. I will find something.
Fuck. All right, that was my initial thought. Fucking, what did you think about this, man?
Okay, so a lot of people compare this to Shining, a movie I absolutely adore, and the first 2 acts of this film have great cinematography and great moments that definitely put it on that same level as The Shining. Great angles, great lighting, a lot of good stuff. For me, that final act of the last 30 minutes, it doesn't work for me at all. And I have reasons for this.
Really?
But, the last act, I'm not gonna lie, Ryan, Amanda and I spent more time laughing at it than we did actually getting spooked by it.
Really?
Yeah, we just were like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
All right, that's interesting. I can't wait to hear you go in depth on that.
Granted, I had a good time with it overall. The first 2 acts, like I said, great stuff, and if you really like horror, those are the best 2 things to take out of this. The third act, I listened to other podcasts before this, and it's very hit or miss. Some people really love it, others really hate it. We're gonna dive in tonight and see where we land on this when we're all done.
Yeah, but just for everybody to be aware, this is a movie for serious horror horror fans. If you occasionally like a good horror movie, I don't know, man. This gets serious. This is a serious horror film. I didn't know there was a difference, but god damn it, I am aware now, because that was terrifying.
Well, yeah, there's 3 levels of horror films, I think. You have your shitty ass, this was never meant to be a good movie horror film, which is your schlock horror, basically. It's cheap as shit. You have your slashers and your B films. Those are your Friday the 13th and whatnot, where it's more gore than it is spooky, but it does shock you quite a bit. And then there's this and The Shining, which go out of their way to fuck with your head. And these are the ones I like the most because this takes you to where Silent Hill is. It really jumps in your head and really scrambles with you a little bit. Really diving into symbolism and psychology in ways that most films are just kind of too nervous to do, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, ooh, I'm sorry, man. You've got a synopsis, but goddamn, this movie was.
Oh, I got a good synopsis here for you. You ready for it, Ryan?
Well, let's hear it, man. I could use a laugh. Can you please make me laugh?
Oh, I intend to. A little swig of water for the prep here. Here you go. With the racist grandma dead, the Graham family is left to mourn her loss. Annie, the mother, is unable to feel anything, as she has had a bad history with her mom. I wrote grandma for some reason. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking there. Stephen, the father, tries to be the stable rock of the family, but he has to lie about weird shit happening, like a desecrated grave. Peter, the eldest son, just blazes every day. Hashtag blunts for Jesus 420.
420?
And Charlie, the autistic daughter, presumably, is the one who seems to be having the rough time with the loss. She mutilates dead birds and has a weird feeling something or someone is following her. Meanwhile, Annie is going to group therapy, lying about where she is and doing her day job of making miniature sceneries. Most of which she makes now is inspired by the recent loss and events taking place. That was a really oddly constructed sentence. I apologize. One night, a happening party is taking place, and Peter wants to get his obviously virgin dick wet. I mean, who doesn't? Am I right, guys? Come on. However, his mom doesn't want him drinking, so his sister is forced to go. That's logical for you. She doesn't want to, but Annie thinks that she needs a night out to get some help over the recent loss of her grandma. I think I should point out here that Charlie's allergic to nuts. This is important because at this party, there's some nuts baked into the cake. Panicked, Peter races Charlie to the hospital, but an accident occurs along the way, and Charlie loses her head. Quite literally. A freaked out Peter just can't deal with this and heads home to process, leaving the body in the car for the next morning for his mom to find. I thought Folgers in your cup was the best way to wake up, but no, that'll wake you up too.
Stop.
Another funeral and more attempts at group therapy happen. Annie meets Joni in the parking lot for therapy, and the two become something like friends. Meanwhile, Peter is seeing visions and hearing noises, which appear to be manifestations of guilt. The mother begins sleepwalking, which freaks him out even more, and the father is stressing out harder to try to hold everything together. It all comes to a head when Joni tells Annie how to perform a seance to reach her dead daughter. Thus, we enter in Act 3. Annie forces a seance on her family, which causes the manifestations Peter sees to become more violent and aggressive. They threaten him. The sleepwalking appears to be more problematic than originally anticipated. Peter literally beats himself up, and Annie finds drawings of a dead Peter in Charlie's old notebook. And a dead body in their attic. She tries to explain this to Steve, asking him to burn the notebook and get rid of the spiritual connection. This backfires horribly, and Stephen dies burning up in a cloud of smoke. It's ridiculous. In the final scene, Peter awakens and explores the house. His mom, or so we think, is flying around in the background. He finds his dead father and then retreats into the attic where his mother is trying to kill him. In the attic, he meets naked people, watches his mom kill herself, and then commits suicide with all this weird shit happening. He just can't deal, man. He just can't deal. But he stands back up after a ball of light enters his body. The spirit of Charlie has entered into his vessel and is crowned by a cult as one of the 8 kings of hell. The movie ends. I'm not even joking. This is what the hell just happened here.
Yeah, no, that's a movie. That is a movie there.
So I don't mean to be rude about the ending. I like I said, other people have said on podcasts I've listened to that it works and they like it. And you know what? You guys have found a way to make it work for you. That's great. Me personally, having seen it, having listened to podcasts, I think if I rewatched the film and saw all the clues leading up to it, because there are clues planted in the film that I didn't necessarily catch or think they were related to the ending, it makes it work a little bit better. Like what? So go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but what exactly about the third act did you not dig? Are you not buying the satanic cult reveal, or was it just mom flying around that made you laugh?
The mom flying around had us laughing from the minute it happened. Like when she was like floating through the air behind him in his bedroom out in the hallway, both the man and I could not help but crack up laughing. It was just like looked so ridiculous. But then when the cult happened, it didn't help me very much. Like, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you had this cult this whole time, and yet, except for when Joni did some things late in the movie, we never really got that impression they were there. And then once we revealed they were there, it's like, oh, they were there the whole time? Where were they? I never saw them at all. And I don't know, I feel like it was maybe too subtle in that respect. Like, I never really felt like it was a cult going on. I felt like it was just like, this family stumbled into something they weren't supposed to get into. But based on everything I've been reading and based on all the background stuff, it sounds like the cult was actually manipulating these people from, like, before the movie even happened.
Yeah, so my read on it, so I will say from the moment that Annie first opens the book on spirituality and she sees a note from her mom saying, "I'm so sorry for the loss you're gonna experience, but the gain that we'll get is so much greater." Instantly I was like, okay, so she's a diabolist. Alright. I said it jokingly, but god damn it, I was right. What I didn't expect the twist for Joni to have actually been a part of that cult.
Well, then you see the pictures, though, and it's like, oh, wait, she was there, too?
Right. So, like, apparently, like, I'm not sure if she was there at the funeral, but the idea from a couple of YouTube videos that I watched on it afterwards is that when she says, when Annie's giving the eulogy at the funeral, and she says, "I see a lot of new and unfamiliar faces," and that, like, and my mom would be, like, skeptical, like, about who are all these people that just showed up when she died, and she meant to say that kind of funnily, but she was super awkward about it. I think the impression is that the people that she didn't know was the cult, and all the people there were actually the cult members.
So here's the funny story about that, though. So I didn't read too much into that because my grandpa died maybe 3 years ago now, and at that funeral we went to a local AA club, which is where he frequented because he was the treasurer there, and. There were so many fucking people there who I've never seen or heard of before. He never talked about them or anything, and it was all because he had such a big impact in their lives when it came to dealing with their addictions and whatnot. And to me, it's like, oh, so she kind of had that influence in the community, maybe? Now, granted, when you get more into the film, of course it's not the case, but when I first presented that, I didn't think anything of it because I'd been through that before. I kind of was like, oh, okay. I
didn't either. I kind of took it the way you took it, and just like there are a bunch of people there that she doesn't know, and then towards the middle of the movie, you find out that she was estranged from her mom until Charlie was born. So it's just like, okay, it makes sense. She doesn't know a whole bunch about her mom's life, so she knew all these people. That's neither here nor there. But when I watched it, and it was inferred that the people she didn't know at the funeral were actually the cult members. A lot of other stuff started clicking into place, like how they were just doing these weird rituals, and like that one lady like reached in and fucking like drew her finger across the grandma's lips, and that creepy guy who
at the funeral,
smiles at Charlie. I was just like, that's weird. Yeah. Who the fuck is that?
Well, I think he's one of the naked guys you see later, too.
It is. So, like I didn't catch that right at the beginning, but it was one of the things that led credence to the ending, to the third act. I bought the third act. It made a lot of sense, especially with the reveal towards, like, the beginning of the third act, when she starts realizing that they were for real fucking cultists, and that Joni is actually a cultist who knew her mom. All of those things, it started making more sense, and it made the ending work for me. I still didn't like the movie, but it made sense from beginning to end.
I absolutely get you. And like I said, I think if I had a repeat viewing, knowing what I know now, I'd probably be kinder to it. But right now, with that first viewing only, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this just did not keep me engaged. I think maybe just the lack of seriousness I took that with, combined with the fact that the clues didn't quite add up for me at first. Just like I said, I think it was a recipe for me just not clicking with it at the end.
That's fair. That's fair.
But like I said, I think everything prior to that, all the camera work, all the subtlety, all the quiet moments, everything works beforehand. Though everything that we see beforehand.
So I have a question for you, and I know we're supposed to get to the discussion, but this is a discussion question, just impromptu. Did you, like, when I was watching the movie and we got she was at the first group therapy session, and she was talking about all of these mental health issues that her mother was dealing with, and then her brother actually dealt with stuff, and then her father actually dealt with stuff. And as the movie went on and Annie was more and more losing her shit, what I was kind of expecting to happen was that Hereditary is actually like Annie developing the mental illnesses that her mother did towards the end, and that was the inheritance that she was getting. Like, we're just seeing Annie go into madness as tragedy just kind of hits fast forward on it.
Well, and there's credence to that too, because the son actually starts to go through some of that stuff as the film nears the end, and you're thinking, oh man, is he getting this down too?
Right, but that all changed with the same.
Yeah, no. So
with the actually empirically spooky shit started happening.
So
did you think that that's where the movie was going? Did you have any idea of where the third act would go when you watched it?
So I want to give a shout.
What did you think?
So I want to give a shout out to Austin on the Wisecracks Show Me the Meaning podcast, because he actually pointed this out to me. I was listening, but he pointed out in the podcast, and I thought this was a very strong example of where the film kind of falls apart a bit, at least for my reading of it. So, going into it, yes, I was under the impression that we were going to be dealing with characters who maybe they weren't actually haunted, but they were maybe like possessed by this like demon that is their mental illness, and they didn't see reality the way everyone else did, and so the horrors are kind of built up in their heads and not necessarily for realsies. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and I wanted to see that play out. And for the most part, it could have worked that way. Because you have all these different people around them, but they don't know who they are. They can't really acknowledge them. There's no addressing to them specifically. You have all these weird actions each character takes that is their kind of way of coping with stuff, which, again, kind of makes sense for those with mental illnesses who they have coping mechanisms that kind of help them grieve or understand bad situations. And even Joni could have been written off as like a manifestation of Annie's like imagination. It's like, oh, this is the person I can made up to help me understand my loss, my mother, and all that stuff. But when it comes to the filmmaking, there is one pivotal moment where it goes from anything being possible as a like in their head experience to, oh, this is seriously actually happening within the narrative of the film. When she goes to Joni's place after reading the books, the notes, and seeing her picture and all of her mom's old stuff, she goes back to back to her apartment, knocks on the door, and no one's there, no one's answering. And the camera then goes into the apartment and looks inside to see the ritual surrounding. Is it Peter? Is that his name? No. What's the son's name again?
Yeah.
Is it Peter? Okay. It goes inside to see Peter's photo surrounded by all this demonic ritual stuff. Now, if she had gone into the apartment to see that that could have also been played up in her head, and I could have still gone forward with that reading. But because the camera separated itself from her, and we left her vision to give the audience a look into what's going on, that indicated to the audience, this is actually happening, it's no longer in her head. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, no, what? What happened to this all being her fucked up delusions? She's actually, what the hell? And you could have still played it off, because then he saw Joni later at the school, or by the school, and I'm like, okay, so he's seen the illusions too. But like I said, the minute you see the ritual stuff going on in her apartment without anyone else there, that is when you're like, oh, this is happening. Okay, so my reading got crushed pretty quick after that.
So that moment happened a little bit earlier for me.
Okay.
It happened when she did the seance with her family. Because Steve, bless his fucking heart, Steve, who was trying to hold his family together, was there and was witness to the fucking spooky, like, glass moving and all that craziness. Like, to the point where he's actively looking under the table. It's just like, how the fuck did she do that? What's happening? Why did the fire just go like that? Like, he was the impartial witness to say, nope, genuinely spooky shit is now happening. So this is no longer just in her head because I saw that thing happen too.
But I could have played that off as he was either humoring her or she was misremembering the entire thing. I could have written it off either one of those ways depending on how the rest of the movie went. But yeah, you're right. That was also a pretty big indicator there. So yeah. I don't know. I think I would have preferred it going with the everything's a delusion and she's just lost her damn mind. That being said, I don't hate the twist they made it, where it's like, she's not really crazy, they're just stuck in this batshit insane situation, and by the time she realizes it, it's too late to do anything about it. I don't mind that at all. I just wish there had been more of a build-up. I wish there had been a better way to signal that was where it was going, because it just kind of was a letdown that the way I wanted it to go didn't happen.
That's understandable. That's understandable.
And no, this is not a Last Jedi situation where I'm disappointed with Last Jedi. No, I like Last Jedi for everyone listening, but no, this is not like that at all. This is just like, you built it up to be one way, you had all the building blocks in place, I'm like, okay, I can follow, I like where this is going, and then you just basically tear down the wall and like, nope, this is actually what's behind it, never mind. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, that was how I kind of read the movie a little bit.
Okay, alright.
But going off that though, let's see, we talked about the cult, we talked about that, we talked about foreshadowing, we kind of cut a lot of these questions out of the way pretty quick, that's pretty good. Okay, so going off the topic of Annie then, since we're still kind of lingering on that a bit, at the end of the day, at the end of the film, do you think she's a bad mother?
Absolutely. Oh my god, you don't even have to finish the question. Oh god, she was a horrible mom.
So here's my thinking. I don't think she was a bad mom in the sense that I don't think she was, like, actively doing horrible things, but I think she was being led into doing horrible things and saying horrible things. I think that the cult and her mother, by extension, they kind of put her and her family in this situation that ultimately led her to just this arguably self-destructive path. And I think that so with the film at the beginning of the movie, Ryan, you're with me, right? At the beginning of the movie, yeah. The camera starts out in the model room, the dollhouse room, and it zooms into a dollhouse, into a room that's supposed to be Peter's room, and then the movie starts from there, and it never pulls back out. And from what I've been researching and reading, this is meant to kind of symbolize that the entire time that we're looking on this situation, and that everybody in the movie, they're not miniatures, but they're metaphorically miniatures. They're metaphorically puppets being controlled by the cult. From this, they're these small people being controlled by this outside force. So, I don't think she's a bad mom if she was left to her own devices, but I think that because of how much influence this cult had over her and her family, it was inevitable that she was going to make all these horrible decisions in the first place.
So I don't think she's a bad mom in light of the choices that she made with the situation. I claim that she's a bad mom in the fact that the grief that we see her go through starts leading her to say some horribly fucked up shit about her fucking kids. That's what I don't like. Like having this conversation about how she can never forgive him for this terrible accident because he won't admit that it was his fault, and her having a dream that I never wanted to have you, and that I tried to kill you multiple times, but I don't hate you now. I'm like, nah, I was like, oh my god, why did this woman have kids? And it blows my mind because she said that once she had her firstborn, she completely cut off contact with her mom.
Well, that was because of the cult thing. She didn't know about the cult, but she did know her mom was obsessed with having a young man in the family, which is why her brother brother died. So it's understandable she'd keep her son separate from her.
Well, no. Here's my point though. Like, she separated completely from her mom, so I don't buy that her having a kid and like the interaction with her interaction with Peter was manipulated by the cult because she left. She bounced. It was only when she had Charlie that she initiated contact with her mom and quote unquote gave her Charlie. So all of this animosity that she's got towards towards Peter, even though it's brought about by the grief of the loss of her child, which is completely understandable. But all the shit that dredges up, that's all her. That's all her. So I can't really forgive that.
No, I get you. I think there's definitely an argument to be made here. But no, I definitely think that she's not Mother of the Year. I'll say that much. She's nowhere near perfect.
She is not Mother of the Year.
But like I said, I think there is some excusing to it, because like I said, I personally don't know how much influence the cult did have, but I can definitely say they did sway a lot of what happened in the events of the film, and they definitely knew, with her being the daughter of, I'm assuming, the leader of the cult, I'm assuming they had enough information on her to know what would trigger her and how to get everything the way they wanted it to. I didn't notice it in the film, but someone pointed out in one of the other podcasts I listened to, the telephone pole that Charlie hits her head on. It
has the mark of the cult. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I'm like, shit. So they planned even that. What the fuck?
Well, I don't think that was planned by the cult. I think that was demonic influence. I think that was the spirit of this fucking demon they were trying to summon, like exerting his will, and having the tragedy happen. Especially because, so what I've found out from my readings of podcasts and what have you, is that Paimon's soul was actually in Charlie.
They
like
said a lot, yeah.
From birth, which makes a lot of sense if the grandma essentially was given Charlie. Since she was born, it makes absolute sense if she was able to prepare this child as a vessel for Paimon. It's also, and which is why, but it makes sense that she had to die to release the spirit so that they could get him in a physical male form. It's also been kind of discussed and theorized that the reason that it had to be this kid was because it had to be within the grandma's bloodline.
Yep.
It couldn't have just been any random dude. It had to be a male of this bloodline, which is why she really, really, really wanted Charlie to be born a boy as opposed to a girl.
Yep, and they dropped that too.
Yep. Fucking Annie, she can't do anything, man.
I gotta say, I'm actually really impressed with all the research you did for this one. I've got to applaud you on that one.
I had to watch things to make it not just terrifying. It is just like this movie does a lot of amazing things with.
There's a lot of layers.
There's a lot of layers to it. Like if we set the story aside for just a quick second, I want to the things that it does to build suspense. I really appreciate it because the things that they did to ratchet up the tension, it's like they lived in the silence before the jump scare. You know, like you're watching horror movies and you get to that really quiet point where they don't think anything is about to happen, but you know in the audience, you know it's about to happen. It's about to come up right now. You're gearing up to be scared, and they kind of live in that space. And it never feels like it doesn't pay off, but it manages to make that tension building the actual main attraction for the majority of the movie.
That's
and
that's pretty good too, because so many films out there in the horror genre, not all of them, but a lot of them, are very eager to, for lack of a better term, blow their load and get to that jump scare as quick as possible to have you jumping in your seats. But the thing they miss with that, though, is that they're cranking things up to 11 all the time, frequently, and it's hard to really continue being scared when you are constantly being told to be scared. So for example, I've had you play Five Nights at Freddy's, and
yep,
having played it myself a bunch, I'll say as much. It stops being scary after a certain point. Like, at first, yeah, because you don't expect it, you don't know the patterns, you don't know anything, And it's one of those, like, you just have to sit there and you don't understand anything. And once you've been subjected to enough of the jump scares, not only do they cease to be annoying, but you can kind of predict when they're going to happen, so you're like, oh, here it comes, and you're not excited anymore. And I think with horror films in general, they've become that. They've become so predictable that you don't really get the tension. You just get the jump scares, and it's like, oh, okay, here it is again. Some films are still good, and they're clever about it. But then you have a film like this where it's just tension. There's a couple moments where it's quote-unquote jump scary, sure, but for the most part, it's tension. It builds up, and it keeps making you just sit on the edge of your seat waiting for something to happen. Whether it does or not is irrelevant. The fact is, you are on the edge of your seat waiting for it to happen. And that's masterful right there. Not a lot of things can pull it off and still be good.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I would say, I would say the scariest moments in the movie for me are moments of complete silence. Just like when Annie finds the book on spirituality from her mom, she reads that spooky ass note towards the beginning of it and turns the lights off, and she looks in the corner and she sees her mom just standing there smiling. That's it. That was fucking terrifying. I was just like, shit.
I love those moments too because they do the same thing later on with Charlie in Peter's room, where he's just sitting there and he sees her. There's the click, and he's like freaking out, like what's going on? And then all of a sudden she clicks, and then her head rolls off, and it's just the ball, and it's like it's just
that
all in his head.
Me up.
It was so good though. It was so well done.
It was, and like towards the end of the second act when Peter is still obviously like really fucked up, but everything starts ratcheting up because the seance has happened, and that moment where he looks to his side and he sees his reflection in the mirror, and his reflection is smiling at him, and he is not smiling, but his reflection is, and it's just silent. And then it's one of the most terrifying things I've ever fucking seen.
And then it ranches up like right after that, where it slams his head into the desk and shit, and it's like, oh crap!
It's just so, it's so unsettling. It's so unsettling. Like you can take or leave the actual story that they tell with the diabolism and all that good stuff. That'll work for some people. That won't work for others. But the actual tools that this movie brings to the table as a horror film are top notch.
Oh yeah,
top notch.
And again, I'm referring back to the masterclass. It's got a lot of similarities to The Shining. It was a lot of tension, very few jump scares, and when they did have them, when those moments did happen, boy was it weird. And this movie definitely carries that same level of tension with it. It's impressive how they were able to get away with that.
Yeah, no, 100% agree.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't covered yet, but I think we covered all of it pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was dumb and didn't come with trivia for this week, so I apologize. Instead, we're going to take the next probably 15 minutes to discuss a trailer that just came out in the past week or so for our upcoming films in March.
Generic 90s grunge song. Everyone in Flanders. Generic 90s grunge song. Something from Seattle.
Ryan, what do you think of that Captain Marvel trailer?
Ooh. First of all, I love how dated it is. I love that the first, like, the first time the 90s smack you in the face is when this person falls, she falls into the roof of an outlet store, and then the camera pans down, and it's Blockbuster Video. I'm like, okay, I'm home. I'm home. We're in the 90s, and I love the time period it's set in. But I think the biggest takeaway, or the biggest thing that I'm excited about, actually, is I really think they're going to have a really amazing sense of cinematography in the movie. I liked the flashes that they kept taking from various parts of her life as she's trying to piece together who she was before she was fucking Captain Marvel. And what they were doing with that last sequence, like towards like the later half of it, and they're like piecing her together as she's growing up and becoming this hero, it feels like they're gonna do some deeper storytelling with Captain Marvel, on top of her just being a fucking powerhouse and like ridiculously like strong and shit. I think they're gonna tell a really deep story with her, and I am very excited for that.
I agree. So I'm going to get my one bit of sugar out of the way quick before I have two concerns.
All right.
So first off, the sugar. The Skrulls are in, and I love the one moment where she's like on a subway or train or something, and she just fucking decks the old lady because obviously she's a Skrull.
Punches an old lady in the face.
It's so good. Like, I hope there's more of that because, goddamn, I just want to see the superheroes punching old people now. It'd be hilarious.
Oh my god.
Can you just imagine the Hulk like going into a retirement home and he just sees all the Skrulls like, I'm gonna break all of you. You just see him punching all these old folks out of the way. It's gonna be hilarious, man.
This is fucking elder abuse, man. Come on. This is bad.
Well, I shouldn't have voted for Trump then, Ryan.
Nah.
Okay, all joking aside, though, that was good. So I have two concerns about the movie with the one trailer. I'm hoping a second trailer will alleviate it, because I like a lot of what I'm seeing here. I think the visuals are really good. The actress looks really good. I actually redid the schedule for next year for our podcast, because we're going to actually discuss her one Oscar win the week that her new movie comes out. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Nice. All right.
But anyway, my concerns. Number one, so when Black Panther's trailer came out, and when Black Panther was being talked about, they made a big deal about it being the first like African-American led superhero film of the MCU. They pushed it as hard as they could, and from the minute you saw that first trailer, from the minute you saw everything about the movie, you felt that, and it resonated really well. With this movie, it's the first female-led superhero movie of the MCU, and really one of the rare female-led superhero movies, period. And from what I'm seeing in the trailer, it doesn't feel like that's a big deal. To me, it feels like it's just another MCU film. That's not bad.
It doesn't lean into it.
That's not bad, but you're right. It does not lean into it. And I feel like that's going to be a little underwhelming going into this. Because when they did Wonder Woman, they pushed the hell out of that. And they marketed that one really well. They were very clever, very, very smart about it. This one, I feel like they're being very subtle about it. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I can respect the choice. It's definitely different from Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman was the first female-led major superhero blockbuster, period. So it makes sense that Marvel's not trying to ride those coattails too hard. Like Black Panther is the obvious exception because it's an African-based superhero, and they're really gonna portray an amazing future African civilization that really celebrates Black culture, and you could tell that's what the movie was going to be about. And Captain Marvel, it feels like they're gonna tell a really good Marvel film, and it's gonna be powered by this character. So I'm not mad at that. I think they're gonna do right by it, but I think you're correct in that the focus in this movie is gonna be on the story and the actress rather than any kind of political message that the movie might give.
And that's fair. And like I said, my concern with it though is more just so. I'm trying to think how I want to word this. When Black Panther and when Wonder Woman came out as they did, there was such a big fanfare and such a big uproar for both of them. Whereas with this one, I've been reading some articles and looking into it, so that's why I bring it up as a concern. People are saying, "Oh, it's going to be the next $1 billion Marvel movie," but the problem is, it has equal chances of being the next $1 billion Marvel movie as much as it has been the next Ant-Man level movie, because outside of the comic fandom, Captain Marvel's character isn't really that well known, and so Guardians of the Galaxy had that same problem. so to speak. And I feel like they've got to market her in the right way. Not like, don't be like Guardians of the Galaxy 2.0, because we already have Ragnarok to do that.
Right.
But you gotta give us a very good hook, a very strong reason why. Why do I need to see this superhero film over, say, Shazam, or Aquaman, or Wonder Woman 2, or just rewatching the Marvel movies I already have? And as it stands right now, and I'm not trying to belittle the movie, because I'm still going to see it when it comes out, but to the average film goer, I don't see a hook yet that's going to pull them in over anything else. Black Widow, if they did that one, maybe, because she's an established character. They know who she is. But this whole new person that they've never seen before, I don't see the hook yet, and I'm hoping we'll get that in trailer 2 whenever that comes out. But right now, I don't see it. Right now, I don't see it.
So, I think there are a couple of hooks embedded, as you say, for, of course, Marvel fans, but also for people who have seen Avengers, who have seen Infinity War, because they know that Nick Fury, before he died, called on one person, and it's literally the only fucking positive note at the end of the film. Like, everybody is dying, and we're just reeling because we've lost so many beloved characters, and Nick Fury is even dying, but it ends on that one scene, that one shot of the beeper with Captain Marvel's name on it. So it's almost, or Captain Marvel's symbol on it. So it's almost like people who watch Infinity War know that this is the character that's gonna potentially turn shit around. So I think that's a hook. I think her just being female and leading the next big Marvel movie that they're pouring a lot of money into is automatically going to be a draw. I don't think they need to lean into it as hard as Wonder Woman did or as hard as Black Panther did. I think just by her being female, it's going to be fantastic. And I think they're putting their energy towards telling a fantastic story, so that way it's like, it's not just, oh, hey, here's a movie about a black superhero that just happens to be good. Instead, it's, here's a fantastic superhero movie, and that fantastic superhero movie is driven and powered by a phenomenal female actress. Let's go.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna wait for the second trailer to finalize my thoughts on it. Like I said, this is just based on the preliminary footage we got, and it's very subject to change. And I agree with you. I think
it comes out in my birthday month. I'm so excited.
I like how you get that, and I get Shazam. We both get pretty good movies to go with.
Yeah.
My other concern, real quick, and I'm gonna be very brief, is it looks like it's gonna go onto the amnesia plot a little bit, the amnesia cliche, and I hope they do something creative with it, because that's sort of been here, done that. Marvel has not done it yet, so that's fine. But I hope they do something interesting with this amnesia bit, because I feel like it's going to be some one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, we know where this is going then.
Yeah, no, I think there's a couple of ways it could go, and I think I think, like, it's Marvel. They have, like, unlimited amounts of tricks that they can pull to make it really, really cool, and a bunch of shit that we have not even touched in comic lore that could make something really silly happen. So I'm not worried about it. Like, my initial read is that she was human, she was a fighter pilot, she got abducted, she got experimented on and turned into a warrior, and she lost all her memories, but when she came back to Earth, she was a fucking Kree warrior, and that's my initial read on it. I'm sure they're gonna do something fun with it.
Oh yeah. And it is another, like, positive I want to take from this. It looks like they're gonna be pulling from all of her backstory too. Like, I read some stuff comparing her, like, powers and the appearance of some stuff to her brief stint as binary. And I'm like, oh, they're going to pull from everything and make her, like, super Captain Marvel. Nice. Let's see where this goes. So, I'm looking forward to seeing the love they put in this character, because that should be pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, also, the fact that like Captain Marvel is canonically one of the most powerful individuals period in Marvel. So all of the females that we've had, actually no, scratch that, because we essentially have 2 female characters in on the Avengers. Black Widow, who is a normal human but also amazingly skilled and just awesome, and then Scarlet Witch, who can overpower Infinity Stones because she's boss.
She's way more powerful than she's been shown so far.
Very true, very true. But it's going to be really, really cool to have a physical powerhouse, on Thor's level. She's going to be essentially the female power equivalent of Thor.
Or higher, depending on how they do it.
Or higher, depending on how they do it. And that's gonna be amazing to see. We're gonna see a woman do some God of Thunder level scrapping, and I can't wait to see that show.
I actually can't wait to see the inevitable shitstorm from the internet that the what do you call it? The incels will have when it comes to her, because oh boy, they're not gonna shut up.
Well, shit. I tune them out, man. Fucking.
I know, but they make headlines and it sucks because it's clickbait and it annoys me that it's on my Facebook wall, or Twitter, or CNN.
Fuck.
Yeah, dude, clickbait gets on CNN now. It's sad. Sad times we live in. So we got a good 15 minutes out of Captain Marvel trailer. I'm happy with that. Let's get on to ranking this movie, Ryan. So, for those joining us for the Halloween for the first time, because you decided to skip it and you're like, oh hey, they're doing Hereditary, we'll listen to this one. We have a ranking system for our movies in general. We usually do a gold through silver thing, but for our Halloween movies, we're doing a simple 1 or 2. Bucket or fuck it. If we decide to put it in the blood bucket, it's a good movie and we like it. If we put it in the fuck it category, we decide to say, fuck it, this movie sucks. Moving on. So Ryan, you came into this one a little hot, little unhappy with this one. Leaving this podcast, where would you put Hereditary at?
I'm still torn. I'm still conflicted because I think as a horror film, this is a top-notch movie.
It is.
Like fans of the horror genre, you will absolutely love this shit. If you just enjoy being unsettled as fuck, this is the movie for you. I am not one of those people. I can enjoy horror films. I can enjoy them. But this just felt unsettling and bleak, and I didn't have fun watching it. I can appreciate all of the tools that it brings to the fore, and I think what it sets out to do, I think it does very well, in my opinion. But I didn't enjoy the movie. So I don't know what to give it. It's both. Can I put it in the bucket and then throw the bucket away? Because that's terrifying.
No, we only have one bucket. Then I'll interject real quick, and maybe I can help convince you one way or the other. So I'm still lukewarm on the ending. I really much am. But when it comes to cinematography, sound editing, and just basic understanding the scene, the first 2/3, even a little bit of the third act, if we're being honest here, it does so much with the cinematography that I can't help but enjoy what it's setting up. Yes, the ending to me is silly. I'll throw it out there. But when I look back at the best of what horror films have done, Shining, Mist, other Stephen King movies, Alien, Grudge, so many of them have a good sense of just the scene, the setup, the silence, the build-up, and the tension. And this movie joins those ranks. It joins the movies that are the master classes at it. And maybe when I come back to this movie someday to rewatch it and kind of, see what I missed, maybe I'll be kinder to it. But as it stands, I'm going to put it in the bucket because I feel like, yes, it is something I will probably come back to someday and maybe have a kinder opinion of. But until then, it does so much right beyond that ending, beyond the stuff that doesn't work for me, that I have to at least give it that much. Technique-wise, it's a solid A on that one, without question.
You know what? I will join you. I will also put it in the bucket because it does a lot of things very, very well. Just because I am not a fan of this level of horror does not mean that it's not a good movie. It's not a good horror movie, and it is. It is a fantastic horror movie. I personally didn't need to see a little girl's head decapitated, but fucking
Ryan,
the things I do for this podcast.
It's been a rough 2018
There were
for you.
maggots on the head, dude. Come on.
It's been a rough 2018 for you. A lot of little girls dying on you
It
this year.
was just stop.
Well,
there were maggots on the head.
hey there, folks. This is Aaron here in the editor's desk. We forgot to put in the plugs for this episode. So just to remind you that you can go to find us on our social media. That is Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr. You can also find us on Steam groups if you're a gamer. We have one of those as well. You can find us on all the different podcasting platforms, including Peepa, Google Play, iTunes, Podcast Addict, one of my favorites, TuneIn, Stitcher, and of course there's also our Patreon page, evacstation at patreon.com. If you need to reach out to us with questions, comments, concerns, or if you want to submit your favorite movies and maybe we'll talk about them down the road, that is evacstation at gmail.com. Sorry for the brief interruption, and back to your show. Well, next week, Ryan, we're going to have some fun with a horror classic. We're going back in time, ladies and gentlemen, to the very big, very well-known John Carpenter hit, Halloween. Or are we doing Halloween? Or maybe Halloween. There's so many Halloweens. You'll have to tune in to find out which Halloween we're Halloweening this Halloween.
I'm personally holding out hope for Halloween. So
I think the winner will be Halloween, so we'll find out.
Oh, maybe. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. The only way you'll find out, though, is if you come back, and we'll see you after the credits.
Don't you know it's terror time? And it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. Yes, it's terror.